In the tranquil, seemingly untouched landscape of 19th-century Lombardy, a quiet and picturesque region nestled in northern Italy, a series of chilling and inexplicable crimes would soon emerge, crimes that would not only shock the local populace but also forever alter the course of criminal justice and its study. These were not grand political events that captured headlines, nor were they acts of rebellion against the state, but deeply disturbing acts that emerged from the heart of rural life, acts that seemed to defy explanation and understanding, forcing society to confront the unsettling reality of the unknown and the darkness that can reside within the human soul. The story centers on Vincenzo Verzeni, a name that would become synonymous with terror, a seemingly ordinary farm laborer whose horrifying actions would introduce a new, terrifying, and previously unimaginable chapter in the history of crime. Between the years of 1867 and 1871, a period of intense social and political change, Verzeni committed a series of brutal assaults and murders that not only horrified the tight-knit local communities but also baffled the authorities, who were ill-equipped to deal with such depravity. His perplexing case quickly became a focal point for the then emerging scientific analysis of the criminal mind, a field still in its infancy, providing one of the earliest and most disturbing studies of a sexually motivated serial killer, offering insights into the darkest corners of human psychology. Italy was in a period of profound transformation and unification, grappling with new social and political realities, and Verzeni's heinous crimes presented an unprecedented challenge to both public understanding of morality and the evolving legal system's ability to deliver justice. The local and national press struggled to adequately explain the inexplicable violence that had gripped the region, often resorting to sensationalism and lurid details as the once peaceful countryside was consumed by fear and paranoia. Through Verzeni's chilling story, we witness the very birth of modern criminal psychology and forensic science, and we explore the profound and lasting impact of one man's descent into darkness on a nation's collective understanding of human behavior and the complexities of the criminal mind. For the people of Lombardy, no name was more terrifying than the Vampire of Bergamo. This nickname arose from Verzeni's own confessions. He admitted to strangling his victims and drinking their blood. The act, echoing local folklore, gave the public and press a way to comprehend the incomprehensible. Newspapers seized on the vampire myth, transforming Verzeni into a figure of national horror. The label reflected both the fear and the limitations of scientific understanding at the time, as society reached for supernatural explanations. In an era before terms like sexual sadism existed, the vampire moniker became a shorthand for a new kind of predator. The name endures, illustrating how society grapples with acts that defy moral and rational boundaries. It marks the moment when the line between criminal and monster blurred in the public imagination. Verzeni's crimes unfolded in the rural fields of Bergamo, a region steeped in tradition and close-knit communities. The sprawling landscape, with its rolling hills and fertile farmland, became the backdrop for a series of terrifying events that would forever scar the region. These heinous acts occurred within a close-knit community where everyone knew each other, where trust and familiarity were the cornerstones of daily life. This made Verzeni's actions all the more shocking and unsettling. His victims, local women and girls, were targeted seemingly at random, their lives and innocence stolen in brutal attacks. They were attacked while working or walking along familiar paths, routes they had traversed countless times without fear, now forever tainted by Verzeni's violence. These attacks were turning peaceful landscapes into places of dread, transforming the very essence of the Lombardy countryside into a symbol of fear and vulnerability. Over 4 years, Verzeni was responsible for multiple assaults, a reign of terror that gripped the region and left its inhabitants living in constant fear. His crimes escalated to at least 2 confirmed murders, Giovanna Motta and Elisabetta Pagnoncelli, their names forever etched in the dark history of the region. Survivors' testimonies and the pattern of attacks, though fragmented and often unreliable, began to paint a picture of the man behind the violence. These accounts revealed a clear, terrifying modus operandi, a chilling consistency in his methods that would eventually lead investigators to his doorstep. As a farm laborer, Verzeni knew the terrain intimately, possessing a deep understanding of the landscape and its hidden corners. He was using secluded paths and isolated fields to his advantage, exploiting the vulnerabilities of the rural environment to conceal his heinous acts. The investigation was hampered by the rural setting and limited forensic tools available at the time, making it difficult to gather concrete evidence and track the perpetrator. But the consistency in location and method eventually narrowed the search, focusing the attention of law enforcement on the areas most frequently targeted. Law enforcement pieced together evidence from scattered attacks, meticulously collecting fragments of information from various crime scenes. They were relying on witness accounts and the recurring brutality of the attacks to build a case against the unknown assailant. The fields of Lombardy, once symbols of peace and tranquility, became synonymous with fear and violence. They became a map of fear, and the first clue to identifying the predator among them, a chilling reminder of the darkness that lurked beneath the surface of their idyllic world. The community's sense of safety was shattered, replaced by suspicion and a pervasive sense of unease. And the investigation marked a turning point in rural policing, forcing law enforcement to adapt to the unique challenges of investigating crimes in remote areas. Mapping the crimes, both literally and figuratively, was the first crucial step in bringing the shadow to light and ultimately bringing Verzeni to justice. Verzeni's method was chillingly consistent. He attacked women in isolation, strangled them, and often mutilated their bodies. Strangulation was central to his psychological gratification, a detail confirmed in his confessions. He derived pleasure from post-mortem acts, including blood consumption, which horrified both public and authorities. These acts were not crimes of passion or profit, but signs of a deep psychological disorder. Investigators recognized a pattern. The same sequence of violence, the same marks on victims, the same remote locations. This behavioral fingerprint linked the crimes and revealed a single driven perpetrator. The case forced authorities to look beyond motive and consider the mind behind the violence. Verzeni's chilling consistency made his case a landmark, laying the groundwork for future criminal profiling. His actions became a subject of scientific fascination, transforming him from murderer to case study. Verzeni's case marked a turning point in the study of criminal psychology. At the time, sexual motivation behind murder was not recognized in legal or medical circles. Verzeni's confessions revealed a psyche driven by violent paraphilias, challenging traditional motives like greed or revenge. Medical experts, including Cesare Lombroso, documented his compulsions and recognized the link between sexual arousal and homicidal violence. This shifted the focus from moral failing to psychological pathology, a radical idea for the era. The case laid the foundation for future studies of sexual sadism and necrophilia as drivers of violent crime. Verzeni's detailed records became a reference for later criminologists, influencing works like Krafft Ebing's Psychopathia Sexualis. The investigation forced science to confront the darkest corners of human behavior. The trial of Vincenzo Verzeni became a milestone in criminology, largely due to Cesare Lombroso's involvement. Lombroso, developing his theories on the born criminal, saw Verzeni as a case study for biological determinism. He examined Verzeni's physical and psychological traits, arguing that his crimes were the result of hereditary degeneracy, not conscious choice. Lombroso's testimony challenged the legal system, suggesting science should influence justice. Though the court rejected insanity and sentenced Verzeni to prison, Lombroso's ideas left a lasting mark. The case introduced criminal anthropology and the scientific study of criminal behavior into mainstream discourse. While many of Lombroso's theories are now discredited, his push for scientific analysis of crime was revolutionary. Verzeni's trial became a reference point in the evolution of criminology. The trial of Vincenzo Verzeni. It was a case that gripped the nation, a spectacle that played out in the hallowed halls of justice. It became a national spectacle, a focal point for a country wrestling with emerging ideas about crime and culpability. The sensational nature of the case drew crowds and intense media attention from across Italy. Reporters flocked to Bottanuco, eager to capture every detail of the unfolding drama. The prosecution painted him as a calculating monster, a predator fully aware of his actions and therefore deserving the harshest punishment the law could deliver. They sought to prove premeditation and malice. Their narrative resonated deeply with a public hungry for retribution, for simple answers in the face of a disturbing crime that challenged their understanding of human nature. In stark contrast, the defense, led by the controversial Cesare Lombroso, argued that Verzeni was not a monster, but a patient. His violent actions were not born of evil intent, but were instead tragic symptoms of a diseased and deranged mind. The courtroom became a heated battleground, a clash between traditional notions of justice based on free will and the emerging science of criminology, which sought to understand the biological and psychological roots of criminal behavior. The jury faced a profoundly difficult choice: to punish the man for his heinous acts, or to consider the unsettling possibility that mental illness had robbed him of his agency. Ultimately, after much deliberation, they found Verzeni guilty. However, swayed perhaps by Lombroso's arguments, they spared him the death penalty, sentencing him instead to life imprisonment, a life spent in hard labor and the isolating confines of solitary confinement. The verdict, in its compromise, reflected the era's deep uncertainty, acknowledging the undeniable horror of the crimes while also hinting at deeper, more complex questions about criminal responsibility and the nature of evil. The trial left Italy grappling with profound new ideas about the very nature of crime, the purpose of punishment, and the intricate workings of the human mind. It marked a significant shift in how society began to view the criminal, moving beyond a simple focus on the crime itself to consider the individual who committed it. After his conviction, Verzeni began a life sentence with hard labor, but his story didn't end there. His case remained a subject of fascination for scientists and criminologists, prompting his transfer from prison to asylums in Milan and Turin. This move signaled a shift from punishment to observation, as Verzeni became a living specimen for the study of criminal pathology. Life in the asylum was marked by confinement and scrutiny. Medical records describe periods of calm, depression, and agitation. Lombroso and his followers continued to study him, seeking answers to the origins of his violence. Verzeni's existence became defined by his crimes, his identity forever tied to the vampire of Bergamo. He died in 1918, reportedly by suicide after more than 40 years in confinement. His death closed a long, grim chapter, but his legacy endured in the annals of criminal history. The extensive documentation of his case ensured that his story would inform generations of criminologists. Vincenzo Verzeni's story is more than a grim historical footnote, it's a landmark in our understanding of criminal psychology. His crimes forced society to confront the reality of the sexually motivated serial killer and challenged the foundations of legal and scientific thought. The case became a cornerstone for forensic psychology, with detailed confessions and pioneering analysis by Lombroso and others. While some theories have been discarded, the scientific approach to understanding criminal minds began here. Verzeni's story also reflects how society frames the inexplicable, turning fear into folklore and then into science. The case marks a pivotal shift from superstition to diagnosis, from monster to subject of study. Today, Verzeni is remembered as a case study, a reminder of the complexities of the human psyche and the origins of criminal profiling. His legacy endures as a testament to the ongoing quest to understand the darkest corners of human behavior.